Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. The last 2 weeks have been so chaotic for me. I have been drawing this mural, doing the digital drawing, and fitting in my own stuff wherever I can find the time. If you stay tuned to the end of the video, you will see some mural stuff. So at some point in the last couple of weeks, I was doing some watercolor stuff, and I have used this burnt sienna color to do some paintings in the last year, namely a cat for my sister and a chicken for my cousin. And this mystery burnt sienna color that I was using from one of my many watercolor palettes, I found it to be extremely chalky, and I didn't know which brand it was. And so I set about trying to figure out which paint tube this chalky color was coming from. And as I was testing this Holbein, which I thought it might be this one, but I wasn't sure and I wanted to compare them, I found that it had a weird consistency, and I'm not sure if that's the paint or the paper. And this is the really chalky paint, and I hadn't yet figured out what brand it was at this point. And as it was drying, I was noticing that it was indeed a lot more chalky than the Holbein paint, and I knew that it was not, in fact, the Holbein paint. I did check the tubes to see if they were the same pigment, and they are, but I figured out, there we go, I figured out that it was Grumbacher Academy, which I do have the tube of, and yeah, it is very, very chalky. I even tried my Winsor & Newton Cotman, which is student grade as well, and it is not chalky, which is interesting because the Grumbacher Academy is also student grade paint. And the Holbein just had a weird texture, and I gotta do some paper testing to see if it's the paint or the paper. I'm really glad to have figured this out though, and in doing the testing for this, I really just wanted to get to know my paint better, because I have all these watercolor tubes that most of them were given to me by my friend's mom, who set up this palette for me when we were taking a watercolor class, and she gave me all of the tubes, but I didn't put them in here myself. I had never swatched them, and so I decided to swatch them. I also added my own Holbein paint to this palette to fill it out more, and eventually I will get all the colors that are on the paper, the map for the palette, and I will fill the whole thing up. For now, Drusilla is helping me, and I will test the paint that I do have. Or I did test the paint that I have. Speaking of Drusilla, she's on her way down the stairs as I'm recording this voiceover, and so you might hear her crying. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of other artists on YouTube who are very keenly aware of all of their paint, and they do a lot of testing with it and experimenting with it, and I just realized I really wanted to get to know the paint that I do have, which I've never done before. And it was actually a very enlightening process, and I really enjoyed finally swatching these out. Hello, my child. Please be quiet. I also figured out that for this painting that I did, the Dark Matter Redux, which you can watch on my channel, it was not, in fact, Payne's Gray by Winsor & Newton. It was done with Neutral Tint by Daniel Smith. So, nice to know. I'm glad I figured it out. So this oil palette that I have, I had finished a painting weeks ago, and I put the palette in the freezer, and I meant to clean it off in the next few days after I had done that, and I just never got to it. Life got so crazy. And so it had been sitting for a long time, and a lot of the paint had dried, but yeah, I definitely needed to clean it. This palette was actually made by my grandpa for my grandmother, and I did not like the idea of paint just sitting on it, so oops. But I finally got to it. I started by trying to figure out if any of the colors were still wet. This paint is extremely old. It was sitting in a box for 30 years, And yeah, I inherited it from my grandma. You can watch a couple videos on that. I will link them too. But so some of it dries out really fast, even in the freezer, but some of the colors did stay wet, so I put them on wax paper and put them in this little container, and I put them back in the freezer. Please forgive my daughter. I started by scraping the palette with a plastic scraper. Using a really sharp metal one on this would cut open the wood, and I have no desire to do that. This palette is very special to me. I put just regular old nail polish remover. It is 100% acetone nail polish remover on the palette, and I spread it around, and then I scraped. Again, I did this several times. I did cut down the footage a bit because it wouldn't be that exciting, but yeah, it worked really well. So if you have a palette you really need to get very clean, acetone works great. Obviously, open a window, or if you need to wear a mask, do that. It's very fumey and not very pleasant. Also, don't paint your nails the day before you clean something with acetone. Yeah. I had to take the paint off my nails the next day because it looked completely terrible. Yeah, I got the palette clean and put it away, and that was another task done. Some of you have seen the horse sketches that I did in my sketchbook where I was thumbnailing for a painting that I'm planning. I finalized that drawing digitally, and I printed it off and decided to transfer it to the watercolor paper that I was going to do the final painting on. Now, I really wish I had some like archival grade paper to do this on, but I don't, and I can't afford to buy any right now. So I'm just using what I have, which I highly recommend people do when that's the option. This is just Canson paper. I tested all the papers that I have. You can see that process in a previous vlog here on my channel. I was testing the colors that I wanted to use of gouache and such on different papers to see which one I preferred, and I decided to go with the Canson. So I transferred it with my handy little light table, and I'm pretty excited to get to this one. I'm really looking forward to it. Right now I'm so busy, but oh my gosh, so excited. But yeah, here are the swatches with the drawing, and maybe you can kind of get a little taste of my vision for this. It's going to be pretty cool. I'm excited. Stay tuned to see more of this in the future. So I did this boat painting, also a video on my channel, and the paper warped really bad. I just thought it would be cool to show you guys how I go about flattening my watercolor paintings. Lay the painting down on a paper towel on a hard surface, squirt the back of it, just get it kind of damp, and rub that in a little, and put another paper towel down, and then put very heavy books on it. Make sure there's no gaps between the books so that there's no weird like bumped up spots, and then just leave it for a few days. She's my helper. Yep, a few days later I go back and I pull the books off. I turned this around, by the way. That's why the books were in a different spot. Yeah, and as you can see, you have a much flatter painting. If you wanted to get it even flatter, you could try this again. But I was pretty happy with it. Here are some mural supplies that I ordered. Thankfully, my brother paid for them. He hired me to do this mural. In the last 2 weeks, I have been spending almost all of my time doing the digital version. It's extremely detailed. It's World of Warcraft themed. I have never played World of Warcraft. I don't know anything about these characters except the stuff my friend told me through the process. But yeah, here is my drawing, the digital drawing. I have it on my laptop here, and I'm using my other brother's projector to trace it onto the wall. I was really worried I was going to have to do a grid, and it would have taken forever. Thankfully, my oldest brother had a projector, and I was able to do this instead, which only took me about, I would say, 6.5 hours total. Maybe less, because I was helping with some other stuff while I was there. My brother, who owns this Airbnb, this room flooded, and unfortunately, he needs to replace the floor with a harder floor, and so that's what he's doing right now. And I helped a little bit with moving some stuff around. But yeah, that's the first day's work of the drawing. And I'm really, really pleased with it. It's so exciting to see it up on the wall. And then, as of me recording this, Wednesday, before you'll see this, I finished the drawing. It's really hard to see in this video, but there's a big tree over the door. I think it's called the World Tree. I don't know. And then the rest is just kind of a landscape that I took from a screenshot. And there's all the characters. And I'm aware that some of them are evil and some of them aren't. Day 2 of drawing, and I am done drawing. My brother is still replacing the floor, so I am not going to start painting until he's done with that, which will hopefully be tomorrow. Okay, woohoo! That is a wrap on this week's video. Thank you so much for being here. Stay tuned if you want to see more of my art and more of this mural process. And yeah, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much. Bye.